What's up, YouTube, and welcome to my pickups video for the month of December 2024. Just got back from some travel. I went back to Southern California once again. I think it was my third trip this year, and got to see a little bit more of the area than I've been to before. I did return to Palm Springs, where I went this summer, which had a lot of great scenery out there, but then also visited more of like the valley area of LA and just LA proper and things like that. So did get to hit some game stores out there, not as many as I would have liked. Just the traffic out there is so heinous that it takes forever to get from here to there. There is a ton of game stores out in that market, and still several I've just never been to, but did get to visit some of my favorites, including Game Dude, as well as a few other new ones that I hadn't been to this month before as well. But before we get into that, let's talk about my major purchase for the month, and that is some new hardware. So I've always said the holiday season wouldn't be complete without getting a new game system, just kind of to relive those childhood memories of what that was like. So I had a little bit of an impulse purchase this month, something I'd been kind of planning to get, but this just kind of pushed me over the edge. So I was getting ready to start buying my first PS5, and I decided I wanted to go for the Pro. Since I had not bought one, and I figured might as well go ahead and get the top of the line now that it's been out for a couple months. But the problem was, they sell the disc drive separately, and all the retailers online had been out of stock kind of off and on the last whole month or so. So I'd kind of given up on getting one this holiday season and figured, well, I'll just wait till they get the disc drives back in stock. But just happened to be wandering through a local Walmart, which I normally don't shop at, and lo and behold, they had the disc drive on the shelf. So that kind of started like naughty thoughts in my mind about what I want to do, and decided to just go ahead and go whole hog with it. So got the disc drive, of course, and then I got a spare controller. Decided to go for the camo one just for, I don't know, I just think it's cool looking. And then, of course, had to get the vertical stand, just because the system is so wide, like it really doesn't fit any other way in my entertainment system. And then, of course, we have I probably won't be able to get this into frame, but the ginormous PS5 Pro box. So haven't spent a whole lot of time with it yet. I just got it about a week ago, before I left for my trip, so that's one of the reasons why my time's been limited. Imported all my PS4 Pro hard drive saves and all that stuff to it, and so just kind of getting set up and things like that going. And then just really deciding like what games I want to get for it, because honestly, like the PS5 hasn't had a whole ton of exclusives yet that would really push me to getting it even earlier than I did. So hoping 2025 is going to be the year we start to see some of those like true exclusive or games that are massively enhanced on PS5 versus PS4. But I did start off with getting at least one game to get me started, and this one I had to kind of travel a little bit for, even within my own town. But that is Ys 10 Nordics, and this was only at one GameStop in the whole St. Louis metro area, and of course it was one of the ones farthest away from my house. So I don't know if this game had limited distribution, at least the PS5 version, but very happy that one GameStop had it in stock, because otherwise like no other retailers had it. So really enjoying this, probably even more than I thought I would. I have played Ys 8 and Ys 9, and kind of both lost interest with both of them, just like playing through them after a few hours. I didn't actually finish either one, but this one actually might motivate me to push through. Definitely not a graphical powerhouse. This game probably could have been pulled off just fine. Well, it is on the PS4, but I'm just saying, like, I don't even know if it really demonstrates anything extra for the PS5 over the PS4 version. But it is a nice looking game, it's pleasant, and what I like about this one is the combat is actually a lot more rewarding with only 2 people in the party versus the way that they did it the last few games with like 3 people and you had to rotate through them. Not to spoil anything, but basically you're tethered to your partner, just like Knuckles Chaotix on 32X, and so that leads to some interesting combos and things like that you can do with the battle system. So very enjoyable game, kind of lighthearted fare as far as the story, but we'll see if I make it through, but just enjoying this just as my inaugural PS5 game to get in my collection. So got some more on the way in mail order, so we'll see kind of where I go from here. Move on to some stuff I got on the California trip. So first one of these was a Turbografx-CD game. It's one of the early releases for Turbo-CD, not a duo game. And this is not one that I'm real excited about, but it was one that I didn't have in my collection, and they actually had it in the case, and that is Magical Dinosaur Tour. And before you get too excited, this is kind of like a children's edutainment game, so not really something that I'm probably going to be playing too much, but gets me a little bit closer to more of the Turbo-CD collection, which I haven't really debated whether I want to go for a full set or not, but I do have quite a few in the collection already, so nice to get one of these. The owner of this store was really chatty, just a nice person to talk to, and he kind of explained, like in the past, he's actually had a lot more turbo stuff in stock, including some of the real heavy hitters, including also a magical chase he mentioned, I believe, and just was fun to talk to, and just, you know, nice that he even had anything turbo in stock, because I told him, I was like, even if you're apologizing about this, you don't need to, because in the Midwest, like, we never find turbo stuff. So very nice to get something like that in a store in the wild. So the next game I got was at Game Dude, which is a store that's been in Hollywood for a very long time. I believe it opened in 1989. And I was familiar with Game Dude from back in the day from old EGM magazines. And they still operate as a very old school establishment. They have paper price lists, just like Funko Land, which I think is fantastic. They have a very large selection of games. They have a lot of vintage posters on the wall because they've been open for so long. And then when you go to check out, their register uses dot matrix printer receipts. And so it's a very old school experience all the way through, which I really like. Didn't find a whole ton this trip. It was probably like my cheapest I've ever gotten out of that store. But I got a couple things. So the first one was Pinball Graffiti for Japanese Sega Saturn. I believe this was a very early game for the Saturn. I don't think it was quite launched, but it's pretty early. And I think it also might have come out on PS1 in Japan, but not in the US, of course. Don't think this one is supposed to be anything special. I just like pinball games, and it was cheap, and so I decided to check it out. If I remember right, I think this is the one that has like a really crude story mode built in with like really funky FMV and stuff like that. So I'll have to check that out as like a weird bonus that this game includes. But looking forward to playing this just because it was an easy, cheap pickup on the trip. The next one I got was also a Game Dude. This was one that I thought I needed in the collection to have complete, but actually I had one. It's just this one is still a condition upgrade, so happy about that. But this is Abadox for the NES, and this is a game that's very easy to dismiss because Milton Bradley is not exactly a source of quality on the NES, and just the cover is kind of odd. I'm honestly surprised the Nintendo censors allowed all that blood on the cover, but whatever, as long as that's cool with them when the logo like that. But why I say this game is kind of a secret is that this was actually developed in Japan by Natsume, and Natsume actually made some of the best NES games in my opinion. So it actually is a pretty fun horizontal shooter to play with some interesting exploration elements and things like that. And just a nice complete copy with like all the baggies and all that stuff and sleeve and everything. So somebody definitely had kept this one in good shape, and I'm happy to have this, and then I'll sell off my other copy. And then kind of in the same vein, I went to another game store out in kind of nearer to Palm Springs. It's a little bit more out in the desert area. And that was a store that had recently expanded. I went there in the summer, and then they had just expanded like into a larger storefront in the same plaza. So they must be doing well, and I kind of think they would, because there aren't actually any game stores in Palm Springs or Palm Desert or any of those other desert towns. So you would think that with all the money and population growth out there, like it would be ripe for it. So this store is probably reaping the benefits being a little bit out of the city by maybe 30 or 40 minutes. But one game that caught my attention that I wanted to get, and again it was a condition upgrade, was Psycho Fox on the Sega Master System. This one is in great shape. It has the manual and cart and everything like that. A game that I've always liked on the system. I do also think it's interesting that essentially Vic Tokai, who developed this game, sold the same game 3 times with different characters. And so this game is very closely related to Kid Cool on NES, as well as Decap Attack on Sega Genesis. They all basically use the same game engine and just have some different characters and level design and stuff like that thrown in. But very fun game to play, colorful artwork, actually one of the good Sega Master System US covers. So very happy to have a nice, clean, complete copy of this, and I'll sell off my other one for this as well. And then kind of on that same notion, I got this in the mail while I was gone, so I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but this was a new converter device for US Sega Master System that has been much needed over the years. And so this is called the Mark Master, and what this thing lets you do is it's not only just a pass-through device, but it actually rewrites the code of the US Master System to enable it to play earlier Japanese Sega systems. Kind of convoluted how Sega did that, so basically like if you have a Japanese Master System, you can play SG-1000 games, you can play Japanese Mark III games, and Japanese Master System games, of course. But while that functionality for backwards compatibility was built into the Japanese system, they removed it from the US system. So they basically rewrote the code that even if you had a pass-through device, it would block out those earlier Sega System generations from playing on it. So a very clever designer on the Arcade Forums website, or forums, has developed this solution, which, again, I haven't tried it yet, but it still works as like a pass-through cartridge, where you plug in your earlier SG-1000 or Mark III Japanese title on through the top here, and then again it has some chips into the actual cartridge that will enable it to unlock to play in a US Master System, which is really cool. Now, the one downside of this is that they removed all those earlier backwards Sega System compatibility from the hardware in all Genesis revisions. So you cannot use this even through like a power-based converter on a Genesis system. You have to have a native US Master System hardware to use this, which I do, so it's fine. I also checked with the creator of this and asked them if the earlier Sega My Card games would work on this, if you put in the Sega Catcher pass-through device and then hooked it to this pass-through device, and he said yes it would, so I might actually get one of those soon as well, so I can play even some of the earlier SG-1000 card games. So far I only have one SG-1000 game in my collection. It's the Girls Garden game that's kind of notorious on the system, but I've already ordered some other ones just to check out because I've always wanted to explore that hardware, but I just haven't really wanted to go down the rabbit hole of getting the whole Japanese consoles and having to deal with all that, and more space to need to hook all that up. So if this works as designed, I am very much looking forward to this, and would be happy to pass this person's info along. So you can definitely check this out on the Arcade Forums website. I don't think it's for sale anywhere else, but definitely worth checking out for something that's been long needed in the classic Sega scene. So I think we're almost to the end, but I'll show you a couple other things. I'm going to call them pickups because I was helping my mom clean out their basement, and I found some of my old video game stash from college that I had completely forgotten about and had never brought to my own house. And so one of these things was something that I was very happy to find because I knew I had one and could not find it anywhere, and I tore apart my house one day looking for it, and it kind of ticked me off that I couldn't find it, but I knew I didn't sell it because I would always keep something like this, and that is, of course, the punching puppet for the Lunar Silver Star Story on PS1 that was the pre-order bonus. So I don't know why this got just shoved in a box at my parents' house, but for some reason I never had this in my own collection, so now I can proudly put this on display with all my other working design stuff. But not a super rare piece to have. You can certainly find these out there, but this was my original one, and the box is in good shape and everything. So very happy to have that back in the collection, I guess we'll say. And then the other thing I totally forgot I had was, this goes back to my time of working at Funko Land, when we would get promo merchandise sometimes from the manufacturers. Most of them were pretty stingy. Nintendo in particular would hardly ever give us anything. But Sega actually was pretty big on promo loot whenever the Dreamcast first came out, and then of course tapered off whenever things weren't going so well financially. But what I found was this interesting metal Space Channel 5 Dreamcast lunchbox, I guess you could call it, although it doesn't have a handle. And it's a tin casing, and then when you open it up, it kind of has like a reflective design too. I don't know if it'll pick up on the camera, but it's pretty neat looking. Inside is a promo VHS, of course, to promote the game. I think we actually looped this in the store for a while on the TV in the store, so people could check it out. It has a soundtrack CD with some music that is not necessarily from the game, but kind of like inspired by the game, just dance tracks and stuff like that. And then it has, of course, a sparkly sticker to promote the game. And since it was the early aughts, it of course has a temporary tattoo, which was kind of a big deal too. So yeah, just very neat, nice presentation with this. I think the box is honestly the coolest thing about it. And I wish Sega would have made these for some other games, but they didn't. So just neat to have. Here's what the backside looks like as well, just as designs for the game. I always liked the characters from Space Channel 5. I was very disappointed when this game came out because you can beat it in about 15 to 20 minutes. But Space Channel 5 Part 2 is actually much better, and that's the one they skipped for the US Dreamcast. So kind of unfortunate because it actually fixed a lot of the problems with the first game, and it's much longer too. So, but anyways, happy to have those back in my collection and on my radar that they actually were stuff that I had in inventory and just totally forgot about. But that about does it for the month. Please take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day or night, wherever you are.